Thank you. As Brian said, it's a lot. Anybody want to come to court week before Christmas? I get it. As Brian said, this is Melinda's one day at court. So I appreciate you being all participants in her story. And that story began on April 8th or April 10th, 2017. And in the span of a few seconds, Margaret Nunes slammed into Melinda's car, pushed her car into the car in front, pushed that car into the car in front. And in the span of just a few seconds of negligence, turned every single quiet moment of Melinda's life into constant noise, the noise that does not stop. To her back, to her SI joints, to her brain, to her hearing. Now, I've got to be honest with you all. Melinda's not paralyzed. Melinda's not in a wheelchair. I mean, thank goodness. Melinda's not broken. I'm not coming here telling you that she is incapacitated, that she's now a quadriplegic. But just like the metal, plastic, and fiberglass that was bent in this wreck, so too was Melinda. She was bent. She's not broken, but she is bent. She was a healthy, energetic, high-functioning female entrepreneur on April 9th, 2017. And then one thing happened, and that went away. Now, fault, negligence, as us lawyers like to call it, fault's admitted. As Steve said in his opening, that's the first hurdle. We're past that hurdle, and when you run a race, you don't look back. You don't look behind you. You have two jobs. Your two jobs are to decide what harm did this crash cause, and what is fair compensation under the law. That's where we're going to start, and that's where we're going to end, with my quick roadmap of what we're going to look to expect through my comments this morning. But let's focus on something that's super important. Let's go back to the scene of this wreck. April 10th, 2017. Before there were lawyers, before there was a lawsuit, before there was money, what do we see? You're going to see this legend where it says injury. It's one of the last pages on the certified police report that you have in evidence. And you're going to see down there on the bottom, you've got 5 codes, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 is injury or complaint. What do we have here on this certified police report? Driver 1, Miss Nunes, the defendant, code 4, injured. Melinda Anderson, my client, code 4, injured. Karen Brent, her passenger in vehicle 2, code 4, injured. Driver 3, the car that Melinda's car was pushed into, code 4, injured. And only the 4th driver, the last driver in this 4-car collision, code 0. This wasn't a tap in the McDonald's parking lot. This wasn't a tap in the Taco Bell drive-thru. This was a wreck. This was a significant wreck. It left 4 out of 5 people injured. That's the evidence that mattered on April 10th, 2017. Again, no lawyers, no money at stake, just the facts. And let's look at Melinda's car. It's not a lot. I agree with Brian. But you know what? Cars are made to deform. Cars are made where their bumpers deflect force. And I'd like to do a little bit of an example here. I've got some things I want to show you. Went to Publix this morning, or Kroger, and I bought some eggs. And what's the first thing that we do when we buy eggs? Every single person, you look at the eggs. Why do we look at the eggs? Well, you want to make sure you're not buying broken eggs, because we know what can happen. Well, I take these eggs, put them nicely here in this plastic bag. I set it on the ground. 2.5 pound weight. Weight for my gym. 2.5 pounds. It's not a lot of weight. What do we have? The egg broke. That looks about like Melinda's car. That's not too bad. But it doesn't stop there. 2. 3. Why'd I do it 3 times? Because Melinda says she felt it. She was shook like a gorilla 3 times. That carton doesn't look terrible. Carton doesn't look bad. But I've got scrambled eggs on the menu. It's exactly what happened in this story. The damage doesn't look bad. I get it. But that damage from this 4-car collision that left 4 out of 5 people injured, that force went into Melinda's car and into her body. So let's hear about Dr. Langenbeck, spine specialist who sees 15 low back patients every single day. 60% of his practice is just this. And what did he say? And Judge, can we make sure that the audio is turned up, please? I just want to make sure. Yeah. Could you go ahead and just play it? Thank you.
This was a rear-ended automobile accident. She was stopped at a light. You know, when we're stopped at a light, we have our right foot on the brake. So the force is going to go much stronger into the right lower extremity. The give-way point is this sacroiliac joint back here, and those ligaments back here get stretched.
That's not guesswork. That's his medical opinion.
This was a rear-ended automobile.
Can you play the next clip?
It's common in rear end, front end wrecks. It's commonly overlooked too. The sacroiliac joint is the source of low back pain in about 10% of patients, and it just, you know, it gets overlooked. The MRI is not going to show you anything.
Melinda wasn't a 1 in a million case. This is a common injury that Dr. Langenbeck sees every single day. But they're missed. Why are they missed? Because there's nothing on the MRI. Please don't get distracted by anything Mr. McCarthy says about, oh, well, we have a normal MRI. That's not what this injury shows. This MRI is always normal for an SI joint injury. It's always that way. And the exam and the Faber test that he talked about were positive. That's why he knows that she's injured. Don't get hung up on the normal MRI and the fact that she wasn't injured.
Every indication you have is that the laxity in her SI joint or joints was caused by the April 10, 2017 wreck.
Yes.
Those ligaments were stretched. And like he talked about, it's like that rubber band like Melinda talked about. Once you stretch it so far, it's not going to go back. That's the ligament laxity that she now has, first in her right and now in her left SI joint.
Do you see any other reason why she had this low back pain other than the motor vehicle wreck?
No.
I don't need any commentary. That's it, right there. No other reason.
Before October 2018, that was her subsequent wreck. Were her injuries already kind of set in stone by that time? The laxity in her sacroiliac joint, the permanency of her injury?
Yes.
All this mess about subsequent car wrecks is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. Every doctor that you'll hear says the exact same thing. It was set in stone. Her injuries were set in stone. October 2018 had no effect in any subsequent wreck, had no effect whatsoever. Don't get caught up in this red herring that has nothing to do with this case because the doctors said so. The doctors are what matter, not argument.
Do you expect these to be lifelong injuries?
Yes. You know, so she's going to have pain with her activities to deal with. I just told her she's going to have to keep up with those exercises as best as possible because her particular problem, you know, she's stuck with this problem of this looseness around a joint that's very, you know, foundational to our regular, activities that we do every day.
As she gets older, how do you expect her pain levels to be after responding to these injuries?
Well, the pain is likely gonna increase, and it'll increase, and really cause her to decrease her activities. And it's just gonna impact her.
Lifelong injuries. Injuries that are only gonna get worse. And she's gonna decrease her activity. Well, what did you hear from Melinda? What did she say? Well, I don't do things that I used to. I don't do things that cause me pain. Just like Dr. Langenbeck said was gonna happen. This isn't performance. This is the truth. And I'll say one final thing about Dr. Langenbeck before I move on. Please don't get bogged down in some of the weird stuff that happened in his deposition. November 17th, that visit where his medical record system didn't reflect Melinda's pain, it was listed blank, and there was 0 out of 10 or nothing out of 10. Don't get bogged down in that. That's a mistake in the medical records. Because what happened that same visit? She got an injection. Why would a doctor give someone an injection if they had no pain? Again, smoke and mirrors, red herring, look over here, don't look behind you. Don't get distracted from the truth and what you know is real in this case. You also heard from Dr. Schwartz. This man liked to talk. That deposition was long, I get it. But he's a smart man, he's been doing this over 40 years, and he sees patients all the time with these injuries. What did he say?
Mechanism of injury, the severity of injury, and the time since injury was consistent with a concussion. Basically, it is that 4/10/2017 wreck. That was what started the whole process. So before that particular situation, but for that wreck, I don't believe she would have had these issues.
That's a very important statement he just made, in my opinion. He said, but for this wreck, Melinda wouldn't have these issues. To say it another way, had this wreck not occurred, Melinda would not be here today. Melinda would not have been in his office. Melinda would not have had any of this but for this wreck. This wreck was everything. Nothing else but this wreck.
She's trying to solve this, but it's going to impact her for the rest of her life.
Again, we've got one lifelong injury with Dr. Langenbeck. Now we have our second lifelong injury.
Would that suggest that those wrecks did not contribute to her overall picture?
Well, it did not appear to, yes, sir.
Again, smoke, mirrors, over here, just don't look behind you. The subsequent wrecks are not a factor in this case in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Please don't be distracted by it. But, well, let's say it's age. Melinda's 64, she's getting older. This had to be an age thing, right?
It would be highly unlikely that those would be due to a vascular process, which is what we would expect to see with aging. In light of that and the consistency with previous reported symptoms, aging would not result in the kind of findings that, we saw specific to Ms. Anderson.
This was not aging, period, end of sentence, end of discussion. Now, we heard some testimony about how Melinda's done some interesting stuff. She's been an extra on The Walking Dead. Well, just maybe, ladies and gentlemen, Melinda, she's gonna win the award, the Academy Award for Best Actress. She's been able to manipulate 12 plus doctors, manipulate everybody to get them to believe that she's faking. She's pulled the wool over everybody. There's no way it's possible. She's just a really good exaggerator.
It's unfortunate, but it sounds like her symptoms are there. She's not faking or exaggerating, is she?
No, sir.
Well, she's not faking either. Again, it's clear, it's legit. This is a little bit of a longer clip, but I think this is one of the most important clips that you will hear in this entire case. I want you to pay very, very close attention to what Dr. Schwartz says here.
I would say that I think it's important to understand we judge people by the way they walk and the way they talk. Miss Anderson walks fine, talks fine. So there's a tendency to think about her as being fine. They call traumatic brain injuries a hidden or silent epidemic. And the problem is you can have symptoms that don't show themselves consistently, but show up at certain times. And this is what happened with Miss Anderson that made her recovery more difficult. She just wanted to go on. She just did not want to see doctors anymore. She didn't want to be involved. And, she had to stop doing what she did, which is, required higher level executive functions, organization, flexibility, problem solving, time management, holding information in mind and manipulating it. Those were the things that came out of the evaluation. And so consequently, I would just throw that out there because we can't always judge people by just the way they walk and the way they talk. There are other things that play a role.
Melinda has a hidden brain injury. Higher level executive function is affected. I'll talk in a minute about how we actually saw some of that on display during this trial. But it wasn't a script. Melinda's not faking. She's not just pulling this out of her hat. This is live, real, and in front of you. And again, Melinda's not broken. No one's saying here that she's broken. She's bent, and she's bent different. Not because of age, not because of something she did, but something that was inflicted upon her. So Dr. Goldberg, the ENT, has treated tinnitus patients for more than 30 years. How did he describe tinnitus?
Perception of sound that patients experience that is not sound from the outside, is generated internally. Severe tinnitus is characterized by tinnitus that is intrusive in terms of quality of life and in terms of daily function.
She doesn't have just tinnitus. She has severe tinnitus that is intrusive in her daily living and activities.
Seen any evidence at all to suggest that Mrs. Anderson's tinnitus that she complained of was caused by something other than April 10th, 2017 car wreck?
No.
Nothing else. This wreck, tinnitus, end of story.
Once it's been in place for as long as it had been, at the point that I had seen her, certainly, it rarely resolves. It's usually a lifelong issue.
Not one, not two, 3 lifelong issues because of this wreck.
What long-term effects do you observe in patients with severe tinnitus?
It can be debilitating. It's responsible for depression in many patients and even suicide. But it's a frustrating thing. It's a stressful, sort of draining event.
I'm not coming before you saying that Melinda's suicidal. That's not the evidence. But this stuff can get bad. He described it as water torture, that constant intrusion that you cannot escape. Again, Melinda's not broken, she's bent. But she's stuck with this debilitating condition as he described it for the rest of her life. And maybe the dam hasn't broken yet, but the dam could.
Do you believe the course of her tinnitus injury was set in place by the end of 2017?
I do. 6 months after an event that the tinnitus had started at the time of the trauma and had not improved and maybe worsened, the likelihood of it occurring because of something else or changing because of that, you know, if it hadn't changed, is very, very low.
So are those other records really relevant to the equation?
Not in my opinion.
Again, for the third time, these subsequent wrecks have nothing to do with Melinda's injuries. The doctor said it. No one else said anything otherwise. The evidence before you is that this wreck on April 10th, 2017 caused all of Melinda's issues from 3 different treating physicians.
Do you believe that age caused Mrs. Anderson's tinnitus?
No.
And then again, just like
Any
with
indication
that,
Mrs. Anderson was faking or exaggerating for tinnitus?
No.
she's not faking, she's not exaggerating. One thing that's important is you just didn't hear about tinnitus. You heard a sound that's as close as she can get to what the sound that's in her head all the time, what it sounds like. I don't like this sound. I reacted, I told myself not to react when it was played, but man, I hate this sound. It's something that's bothered me since I've been working on this case. It drives me nuts. Melinda's stuck with this every day, every waking hour. When she's awake, this is playing. Sometimes she wakes up because of this. When she's awake, this is what's in her head. Now I got to pause that. I got to stop that. Melinda never gets her silence back. We have a very clean timeline before you. No ringing in her ears before, no constant head noise, no SI joint pain, no concussion, no brain injury, no brain fog. These are undisputed facts before you. There is literally no evidence to suggest otherwise. And I want you to think very long and hard. If there was some evidence somewhere from some doctor, some visit in the days, years, months, any time leading up to April 10th, 2017, do you think that would have been hidden from you? Or would that have been on full display to show, oh, come on, ladies and gentlemen, Melinda's been dealing with this stuff for years and months. It doesn't exist because it never happened. Because again, these are the undisputed facts before you for your consideration. And then, again, with a very clear timeline. The ringing starts after the wreck. The low back and SI joint pain starts. The concussion starts, and they never stop. 3 doctors, 3 specialties, not together, not within the same practice, not within the same umbrella, nothing. And they follow the same methods. They get her history, they examine her, they touch her, they test her, and they diagnose her. And they all come back with the same timeline. Everything traces back to the April 10th, 2017 crash and nothing else. You also heard from Steve Anderson. I thought Steve was great. Described his wife as a high energy woman. They love attending festivals, hanging out with friends, or film work. They had a traditional marriage where Melinda did the vast majority of the housework because he's gone at least 2 weeks out of the month. And she was able to do all those things. She very much downplayed it, but she had a legit business. Southern Home Organizers was her baby for more than a decade. And she was working with other professional home organizers. She was working with executive relocation companies and other local individuals to do their home organizing. That was important. And she was able to do it, no questions, no pain, no ringing, no prescription meds before this wreck. And then immediately after he gets to the scene, Melinda's stiff, dazed, and dizzy. They go to the urgent care, they can't get help, so they go to the ER. And then in his words, they see a slew of doctors over the coming years. From healthy to not. Headaches, tinnitus, business slowdown. He would testify that when she would come home, because she would try to work, she was absolutely spent because of the injuries that she sustained in this wreck. And now today, she's not the same person. She's a shell of her former self. She's withdrawn, looking for quiet spaces. You know she's not faking. And yeah, I mean, I get it. Steve's a biased witness. He's been with her for 36 years. But come on, who else could I get to come and testify as a before and after witness? Who else knows her more than Steve? No one. He's the best witness to talk about what her life was like before and how it was affected during and after. But even he said, she doesn't crawl into bed and spend her days there because life is her motivation. And this last thing stuck with me. There's always hope. That's a powerful statement. Melinda has been to doctors for years, many, many doctors. She has been told she has lifelong conditions, and this woman still has hope that it's going to change. That speaks to the credibility of Melinda Anderson. She's not faking, she's honest. She's telling you what actually happened, and she wants so badly to get better. That's Melinda Anderson. And on cross, he admitted, yeah, I'm here to help my wife. He was honest. He was not scripted. And I gotta be honest with you guys. He doesn't know the results of an MRI that Melinda had of her brain. He's not a doctor. He didn't know medical terms. But he knows his wife was hurt. He knows she was fine before, and she's not fine after. And for the love of everything, please don't make a big deal about family vacations and family holidays. Why in the world are we talking about trips? Is this the new standard in life? That when you get injured, you need to forget about your family, you need to forget about your life, forget about your friends. You need to crawl under a rock and wait to die, because heaven forbid you have a personal injury case and it may come out that you went to go see your mom in Virginia because you hadn't seen her in 2 years. Why are we talking about this? That has nothing to do with Melinda's injuries. She did what anyone would do. She went to go see her mom. She went on a trip with her family. Please don't hold that against her. Then you heard from Melinda. She told the same story that Steve and the doctors told. Again, undisputed facts. There's nothing else before you to suggest otherwise. And she said it felt like a gorilla shook her 3 times. The pictures don't say a lot. I'm not saying the pictures say a ton. But how else do you get a 4-car collision without being shook like a gorilla? How do you get scrambled eggs in the morning? This was a serious wreck, and she testified just to that. All of her symptoms started because of this wreck. We could have gone down the rabbit hole and had 13 doctors, tons of depots, kept you here for weeks. We didn't need to, because you got exactly what you need. Just enough. More than enough. We talked about how Melinda's life was changed, and now life is tinnitus all day. A legit brain injury, a traumatic brain injury as described by Dr. Schwartz. Real pain. Now some of it's gone, that's great. Now if you're faking, if you're just blowing smoke, why would you say that you got better on some stuff? Again, she's a credible witness. And on cross, she said, I can't stop living. I mean, I have to try to do things. Again, that's who Melinda is. She wants to get better. She wants to get over this. She has that hope. One day it might go away, despite every single doctor telling it's not. Now, when it comes to the real Melinda, she's got a traumatic brain injury, and I think you saw that on full display. There's a couple of examples I want to highlight. Melinda sat here. She actually sat right here. She sat in this chair for this entire trial. She had 3 doctors talk about her October 2018 wreck after this. She had her husband, Steve, get on that stand and talk about the next wreck was her October 2018 wreck. And what happened when she got up there and was asked about when was the next wreck? It was July 2018. She sat there and heard everybody say it. She said something exactly different. Why? because her higher level executive functioning is not there. Then, Melinda's sitting here, and we're talking about her being a paraprofessional, and she goes, "Oh!" You saw it on her face. It was like it was the first time she'd ever heard that and remembered that in years. Because again, this woman has a traumatic brain injury. She's not the same. She's not broken, but she is bent, and you did see it in real time. Also, she's been nothing but honest with you. When Ashley had her on cross and asked her about that time from that 2000 car wreck up until now, if she had any pain at all in her back. What's the easy answer? Well, of course not, crazy person. I've not had any pain in my back. That's the easy thing to say. What did she say? Oh yeah, of course I've had back pain. I take yoga, I go to the gym, I work out, I build up some lactic acid. I had soreness, I consider that pain. Again, Melinda is a very credible witness because she's telling you exactly what happened. She's not holding back, she's not performing, she's not on the set of The Walking Dead. She's being real with every single one of you. And the pain that she told you about is so very important. So now I want to talk briefly about some things that I think you're going to hear from Brian. I think you're going to hear, as you've already heard, well, this was just too low of an impact. There's no way she could have been hurt. Anyone could have been hurt. Just give 0. Don't give her any money. Don't give her nothing, because there's no way anybody could have been hurt. Except we got 4 out of 5 people. She went straight to the ER. She treated for years over multitudes of doctors. If there was some doctor out there that would have said that Melinda wasn't hurt, they sure would have been here, but they weren't. You also may hear something along the lines of, well, it really could have been a lot of stuff. It could have been a lot of things, and we're not calling her a liar, but just you got to look at everything, and there's no way somebody could have been hurt this bad with this wreck. I mean, really focus on those pictures. But again, what do we have? It could have been anything else. It's not evidence. The judge told you before you started, you're also going to hear it when he tells you what the law is. Our arguments are not evidence. And the only evidence is everything that we gave you. That's it. And it points to what it was, the wreck on April 10th, 2017. And our standard, our burden, we have the burden of proving our case as the plaintiff, of not beyond a reasonable doubt. The preponderance of the evidence. Ashley told you what that was in opening statements. We just got to cross the 50-yard line. We don't got to score a touchdown. We don't need to go to the red zone. We just need to get to the 50-yard line. Is our argument, is our position, is our case more likely than not? Our thumb's not on the scale because we provided you all the evidence to show you where the scale fits. All the evidence, none of the evidence. What do you weigh against 0? You can't weigh anything against 0. There is no weight on the other side. Which option is more likely, right? Obviously, April 10th, 2017. Now, you could hear something, well, you really just don't know. You've got to really believe Melinda because, well, there's no such thing as a tinnitus scan. Last I checked, if I go to the doctor and say, hey doc, I'm in pain, they can't plug me up to the pain-o-meter 5000 and say, oh, yep, Mr. Grant, you're in pain. Good news, we can fix you up. Chronic pain, migraines, tinnitus, it's all the same. It's a subjective complaint, but it manifests itself in other ways. So just because there's not some objective tinnitus scan doesn't mean that it's not real. But if that's the standard, then pain's not real. Pain's not a thing. Never is. It's diagnosed just like pain and migraines. And again, look at her story. Look at her behavior. Would it make sense that a woman with a thriving business, thriving career, just throws it away to maybe get up here and have a personal injury case for fun, ask for some money? Doesn't make sense. I definitely know you're going to hear this argument. You're going to hear, well, she didn't take the prescription medication. She didn't do what's called mitigate her damages. And let's be very clear, ladies and gentlemen, on what the law says. The law does not require a person to take every conceivable risk to potentially resolve their issues. The question for you to decide was it reasonable what Melinda did given the circumstances? What would a reasonable person do? And the drugs that she took and then stopped taking, those weren't Tic Tacs. Those weren't breath mints. Those were mind and body altering drugs that had serious side effects. Thousands and millions of people every day make decisions to not take prescription medications for their side effects. And Melinda did the same thing. And that should not be held against her just because there was a chance that it might help her cope. There's no cure for tinnitus. Nothing was going to make it go away, but maybe it could have helped. Just don't look at all the side effects that she also was going to have to deal with. Again, it's not that she took every conceivable option, it's that she took reasonable steps. Isn't it reasonable that she went to 12 providers over 60 visits over the course of 5+ years to try to get better? That's exactly what happened. No doctor testified what she did was unreasonable. No doctor testified that her meds that she didn't take would have fixed her. The last thing I'll say about the defense is all you're going to hear is argument. Please remember that when you go back to the jury room to begin your deliberations. We have provided you with the evidence. You get to weigh our evidence against theirs. They're not required to bring anything, just like Ryan said. They have no burden. But how do you weigh something against nothing? And like Dr. Schwartz said, I like this quote, he said, "There's nothing they have said separately that would change my conclusions." Again, it's things they said. They didn't bring anything. They didn't show anything. They didn't do anything. Because what we have is more than sufficient. And there's nothing else to contest it. Now, this is the hard part. How do you turn all of this into a dollar amount? It's the hardest part of this case. I like to think of it as a job. You're the hiring committee as the jury. Your job is to ask what a reasonable person would do for a job like this. Now, it's a job that Melinda never applied for, a job she never interviewed, and a job she never had the right to turn down. But in a few seconds on April 10th, 2017, it's a job that she got. Now, let's hear the job description. I think it would sound something like this. We're looking for an excited person who will live the rest of their life with permanent back pain from a damaged SI joint, lasting effects from a concussion that make life harder, and constant severe ringing in their head and ears that never stops. Now, this job also has some duties that go along with it. Well, this candidate has to wake up and go to sleep every day with noise in their head that will sometimes wake them up. This lucky candidate never gets to turn it off. Second, the candidate has to move through the world with a damaged SI joint and permanent low back pain that started on the right side and now has progressed to the left side and is only going to get worse from there. This too is a lifelong part of the job. Some days will be good, but some days will be bad. Third, this lucky candidate has to live with the consequences of a concussion and brain injury. Their higher level executive functioning, it's going to take a hit. So when it comes to thinking, planning, remembering, multitasking, working, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible at times. And fourth, the candidate gets to do all of this while trying to maintain their personal and professional relationships. Now, this job description doesn't account for everything that Melinda went through. Some things got better, as we said, but she's still stuck with stuff as well. And there are some perks. No sick days, no vacation, no retirement. In the interest of, I guess, full transparency, let's call it 16 hours a day. Everybody sleeps, and she never said anything about how Her sleep is affected. Sometimes it wakes her up from sleep, but let's just give her 16 hours a day. Now, how long does this job last? Well, you heard from Melinda that she's got some pretty healthy people in her family. Mom's in her 80s, uncle's in his 90s, everybody's in great health. Melinda's 64, so even using a conservative number, let's just call it 14 years. Let's just get her to 80. Let's get her to 80. What would it take for a reasonable person to raise their hand and say, "Ooh, pick me, sign me up, yep, I want that job. Give it to me now. It's worth it." I'm not asking who would settle for this job. I'm not saying, no, I'll take it, I got nothing else better to do. Who's gonna line up outside that door? Multiple people, so they can have this job. That's the question that we're asking for you today. I'm not suggesting this number, but it's a math equation. We've got some people on the jury that understand math. Let's just do the example and see where it gets us. You can choose what rate, you can choose for how long. Let's just look at the numbers. Do the math, $7.25 an hour. $116 a day for those 16 waking hours. We got 3,173 days in the past. You just do the math. $368,068 for past pain and suffering. Again, this is just an exercise. We haven't decided on numbers yet. I just want you to understand how we can do the math. Now let's look at future pain and suffering. Again, $116 a day. 5,110 days. It's 14 years. $592,760 in future pain and suffering. Again, it's a big number. It's a lot of math. I get it. Not saying we're there. The next thing we can throw in, we've got medical bills that you're going to be able to hold with you and look with you in evidence. $26,771. 59 appointments, 11 providers, 5 years. You heard stuff about how there's other bills that are out there. Yeah, there are. We gave you a snapshot of bills up to 2018. Gave you a snapshot. Why? The bills are important, don't get me wrong. But the bills aren't this case. The pain and suffering is this case. I gave you the bills to show you that she did go to an extensive amount of treatment. And yeah, she wants that money back. But the pain and suffering is where the bulk of this case is. That's where our focus is. Don't get distracted by, well, you could have had all these bills, you could have had all these records, you could have had all this. Of course you could have, should have, would have done it. Yeah, but guess what? If I had given you every single thing with every doctor, we would be here past Christmas. I could have given you boxes and boxes of medical records to sort through till New Year's and maybe after. We gave you what you needed. This is Melinda's one case, but I don't want to waste your time with 13 depositions of doctors that range from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. That would be ridiculous. You would penalize me for wasting your time by doing that. So don't hold that expectation like Brian suggested, because we didn't wheel in the UPS truck with everything under the sun. For $26,771 in medical bills. Then we add everything up. Past pain and suffering, future pain and suffering, medical bills, and we get a total that's roughly $990,000. That is an incredibly huge, enormous number. I get it. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. But remember what Steve said in his opening statement. It's not about the dollar figure, but what the dollar figure represents. And what you do when you are in the back of that jury room, what rate you choose, it's up to you. Now also in the full transparency, I think we need to make some adjustments. We need to make some adjustments based upon what Melinda testified to. She didn't say that every single day is debilitating, awful, terrible, no good, very bad day pain. She testified that she has some good days. She testified that she has bad days though. 1 out of 3. So let's take that $990,000. Let's multiply it by a third. Let's cut it in 3. That still gives us $330,000. Again, that is a very, very large number. But Melinda's got some serious things that are wrong with her. This is an academic exercise that you will have to go back in the jury room and do. And as the hiring committee for this job, you will determine what rate will we choose as a daily rate to make the phones ring off the hook. How long will that daily rate last for? How long do we expect Melinda to live with these conditions? We submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that the floor begins at $330,000. That means the bottom, the minimum, is $330,000. How you go above that, it's totally up to you. But we would submit that that is the floor in this case. Because it recognizes 3 things. It pays her reasonable and necessary medical bills which have not been questioned by any single witness. No evidence to the contrary. No one has testified that Melinda's doctors misdiagnosed, misbilled, committed fraud. None of that. The bills are the bills are the bills are the bills. Your verdict should also recognize the last 8, 9 years that she suffered, and then provide a fair value for the years ahead. Now, I will remind you that this is Melinda Anderson's only one trial, just like Brian said. So too is that this is Nunes. There's no second bite at the apple. There's no do-overs. There's no take-backs. So when you walk back in that jury room, you will be writing the final chapter in this case. And again, the judge is going to tell you that we bear the burden. We have met that burden, but we bear the burden. We have proved our case well beyond a preponderance of the evidence. You have the evidence. didn't turn this into a 3-week trial, a charade. And again, compare that to what the defense brought on key questions. No doctor said the three treating specialists that testified, much less the other 9 doctors, got it wrong. No expert said that these injuries came from somewhere else. No witness said, well, if she had just done this, she would have gotten better. None of that. They had 8 years. They had every opportunity. How do you weigh things against nothing? You can't. Your duty when you go back to that jury room, it's a very heavy duty, but it's an important one. It's an incredibly important one, but it's also simple. Your job is to take the evidence, the things you've heard from both the TV, from the chair, evidence that you'll hold in your hands, and you take that evidence and you apply it to the law as the judge will soon give you. That is the extent of what you are supposed to do. You are not to concern yourself with anything outside of that box. You are not to concern yourself with who pays this verdict, if anyone, if it gets paid. That's not of your concern in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Your job is, if you determine that this wreck caused Melinda's injuries, your sole job is to value what those injuries are. You don't worry about what happens after. You don't worry about what happened before. Worry about the valuation and the academic exercise and nothing more. When you write down a number on your verdict, that number is going to say, this is what her medical bills are worth. This is what her pain and suffering is worth. Judge, do you have a copy of the verdict? It's a very simple form. It's very easy. We, the jury, find in favor of Plaintiff Melinda Anderson in the following amounts. Oh, Judge, I think this is the special one. So, let's see. It's on the back of the charges, I believe. I got it here, Judge. I'm just looking for a cleaner. All right. As to the claims asserted by plaintiff, we, the jury, find for the plaintiff in the amount of blank. Or, we, the jury, find for the defendant. Very simple form. Very simple exercise with a significantly profound effect. What Mr. McCarthy's asking for you to do is mark an X here. We find for the defendant. Give Melinda $0. She wasn't injured. Not a big deal. No way it could have happened. Don't worry about it. Okay, thanks, bye. That's not what happened in this case. Don't mark that box. There's a dollar amount that goes in there. What that dollar amount is, I've suggested a floor, but it's up to you what number goes in there. After you take the law, you apply it. It is with honest conviction that I say that the floor for this case is $330,000. It's a lot of money. It's not a bonus, it's not a punishment, but it's the only tool that the law gives you to try to make things right. Nobody's got a magic wand. You can't just ding on Melinda, fairy godmother her back to the way she was on April 9th. This is the only solution the law affords her. And I agree with one thing that Brian said. You are guardians, but you are guardians of truth. You are not guardians of Barrow County. That is not your responsibility. You are guardians of truth and what happened on April 10th, 2017, and what happened in the days, years, and the years to come. Because if you take what he said to its logical conclusion and you render a defense verdict, what that infers is that anybody in Barrow County can go and cause mayhem and there are no consequences for Barrow County citizens. That is illogical, that is unreasonable, that is not what this court is here for, that's not what we are here for. You are guardians of truth, and your verdict will speak that truth and whatever amount you decide the plaintiff is. We've suggested a number, but I leave the math, I leave the calculations to you all, because it is your province to make that decision. I've suggested some things, but again, just consider the permanent brain injury, the permanent piercing noise, the permanent laxity in her right hip that's now migrated to her left hip, and all the effects that have come through with Melinda, how it's affected her life, how it changed the woman that she once was into this new shell of her former self, and what life has for her in store to come. When you write down that number on your verdict form, you will be saying that when someone's negligence takes something from another person, we acknowledge it. We don't try to sweep it under the rug. We accept it, and then we compensate it. What value do we place on noise and pain that never stops? Your verdict will answer that question today. On behalf of Melinda, thank you. Thank each and every one of you for your diligent time, for listening, and for the work that you will soon do back there.